Someone was living in the house. For several days, someone was inside the house. Not breaking in, not stealing, but living there. They cooked meals, fed the animals, and they moved freely throughout the rooms. And the family sleeping inside, they never realized it until they were all dead. Hinterkaifeck was not a town. It wasn't even a village. It was a single farmstead, half a mile from the nearest neighbor, surrounded by forest, fields, and silence. In 1922, Germany was still reeling from the war. Money was scarce and people kept to themselves. And that isolation is exactly what made Hinterkaifeck very, very dangerous. The farm belonged to Andreas Gruber, a stern, controlling man in his 60s. He lived there with his wife, Azelia, their widowed daughter, Victoria, and Victoria's 2 young children. A new maid, Maria Baumgartner, was scheduled to start work at the end of March. The previous maid had just up and quit suddenly. In the days leading up to March 31st, Andreas noticed something strange. Footprints. They came from the forest, and they led directly to the house. But there were no footprints leaving. Andreas searched the property, and nothing was missing. But soon after, keys began disappearing, tools were moved, and the dog barked at nothing. At night, Andreas heard footsteps in the attic. Not mice, not rats, but footsteps. He told the neighbors someone might be hiding in his house. But for whatever reason, he did never contact the police. He just stayed. This day began like any other. The mailman passed the farm, and no one answered. Maria Baumgartner arrived to begin her first day. She never worked a second. See, that night someone began calling the family to the barn, one by one. The barn was dimly lit, very cold. It smelled of hay and animals. The first victim entered, and they never came back out. Each family member was struck in the head with a mattock, a farming tool with a heavy blade. No gunshots, no panic. Just controlled, brutal violence. The bodies, they were stacked and covered with hay. Kind of like they were being stored. After the barn, the killer then went inside. Maria Baumgartner was still unpacking. And she was murdered in her bed. One of the children was injured, but not killed immediately. And the evidence suggests the child lived for hours, pulling at their own hair before finally dying. But here is where the story becomes just unbearable. You see, after killing the entire family, killer stayed. They fed the cattle, they milked the cows, and they cooked meals. Smoke rose from the chimney. Neighbors noticed, but assumed the family was home. 4 days later, concern grew, and a neighbor entered the barn. He found the bodies stacked together. Their faces were crushed, and they were all covered in hay. Inside the house, the maid and the children lay dead. Nothing was stolen, and what money they had was still there. Police arrived late. Evidence was contaminated. Neighbors helped move bodies. Children touched the entire crime scene. The murder weapon was found in the barn. No fingerprints, no confession, and most of all, no arrest. Many theories emerged as far as suspects go. Some thought it was a disgruntled neighbor. One thought a former lover of Victoria, maybe. Another, a transient worker. But none were proven. The most terrifying theory? Killer had been living in the attic for days, maybe even weeks, maybe months before the murders. Watching, waiting. The farm was eventually torn down. Whatever happened at Hinterkaifeck, it never truly left. This case remains unsolved to this day. And someone, at some point, was inside that house. So let me say this in ending. If footprints lead to your door, but none lead away, it's probably already too late.